while on Loving Where You Live, I talked about all the things that I do to love where I live, or at least some of them. This time, I thought I'd talk about all the things that I don't do. And you can keep me company while I water my garden. One of the things that I don't do is I'm not on any Facebook groups or next door or any of those neighborhood groups that are part of our community. Although I recognize that there's sometimes good information in those or things you might want to know about, for the most part, it isn't that. It's people complaining or finding fault or questioning in a way that isn't actually getting results. And I find them to be sort of slack behavior. So instead of actually getting involved, people just get into a Facebook group online and talk about an issue or talk about a thing. If you love it, that's great. But one of the things that I found about living here and loving where I live is that I don't need that. I don't need that at all. Another thing that I don't do is I don't go to things just because I think I should. I did that for a long time. I felt like I had to show up and be present at so many events and meetings and gatherings. And what I realized was sometimes I don't need to be there, and that's okay. If it's meaningful to me, then I will go. But if it's just to go to say I went, that's not enough for me anymore. There are a lot of other ways to stay in touch and participate without having to go to every possible thing. So I limit it and decide what's best and what actually serves me and what I'm doing. I try not to worry about what someone else is doing or how they're doing it. I know that living in a small community, you can know a lot more about people than you would in a large community. Having come from San Francisco, where you're pretty anonymous, I give people that opportunity to just live their lives and do it however they want to do it. My way isn't necessarily the right way, and I don't need to judge or think about how someone is painting their house or living their life or even raising their kids. I let people live how they're going to live, and I feel like that sort of simple respect makes my life so much better. I don't seek out negative media about where I live. There's always a story or two a year on even national news about where I live, and I try not to look at it. That's one perspective, one story, and it doesn't take up the whole picture of who we are as a people. And so I just don't even bother. I I have found that those news cycles end and really they're just looking for the most sensational story. And this is about living in a place and loving it, not about finding the next big story. So I just don't even look. I don't hang out with negative people. I mean, we all have bad days and we all complain a little bit, but for the most part, I hang out with people who are looking for proactive solutions to things, who want to make change and make a difference, and who are also loving where they live. And so if I'm around people who tend to be super negative, I listen for a little while. I might ask them what they're doing to make a difference, and then I just move on. I think that we get to choose who we hang out with and who we spend our time with. And I just choose to spend time with people who are loving their life. The last thing I try not to do is I try not to be envious of other places. Now, this is particularly hard where I live because the state I live in ranks 50th in so many things. And there's a community near me that seems to have an endless supply of resources. But what I realize is I chose this place. I live in this place. This is where I want to be. And so I really try to limit feeling jealous or envy about another place. Good for them. I love that they have good things. I want good things for everywhere. And so instead of looking towards the border or across the land at what someone else has, I just try to do what I can do in my own space. And so, yeah, I think that I have to say that might be one of the harder ones. But it's okay. It's a lesson for me too to learn about letting go of envy. And so that's a big practice, just learning to love what I have. It's the middle of summer, so the garden is just about ready to burst open. So I appreciate you coming out and spending time with me while I water, which is sometimes twice a day thing, and talking a little bit more about what we don't do to love where we live. And so, yeah, there'll be more on this. I'll share more about the practices I do and how I really cultivate a sense of place and why it matters. Why it matters. Thanks for watching. Please subscribe and like and all the things I guess you're supposed to do. And I'll see you next time.